All right. Good evening. Good evening, and welcome to Open Mic Night. I'm your host, Thomas Warren Jr. Certainly glad to be here with you all. It's good to see so many faces and without a mask. I know when we're out and about, we have to wear a mask, but it's so good to be on a Zoom call where we can be free and I can see you and you can see me. So I'm so thankful for the opportunity to share another life-changing message on tonight. And so, Open Mic Night, I want to get going real quick and share some announcements. But first, I want to welcome everybody and kind of introduce Open Mic Night and some future events coming up. And then I'll introduce our guest speaker for tonight. So, Open Mic Night is simply an avenue of real world education. Weekly subject matter expert speaks on topics that are influencing us and that will elevate our community. And so, our theme of Open Mic Night is kind of unpacking and discovering the unique joys and challenges of COVID-19. And so we've been having a great dialogue ever since the start of this pandemic, gathering topics, gathering speakers to encourage us and to help us shape our minds and stay focused during the climate that we're in. And it's so imperative that we stick together and stay encouraged and stay prayed up ultimately during this time because it is a time of purpose. It is a time of self reflection. And so if you're like me, this time has definitely been a teacher. And so we're going to continue kind of teaching each other and learning from one another on tonight. And so sit back, relax, take notes. Feel free to take notes, ask questions in the chat, raise your hand. I'll call on you anytime you have a question for Miss Brittany Thomas tonight. We'll do our best to um, allow your question to be heard on tonight. Coming up next, kind of looking ahead, um, during this fall season, we're going to be kind of experiencing the holiday season coming up. And so I'll kind of give you dates on um, cancellations just to honor the holidays. Of course, Thanksgiving Day will be held on a Thursday. We will not meet, as well as Christmas Eve, which is on a Thursday, as well as New Year's Eve. So we'll have some time off for you to practice what we're going to talk about, which is self care, hopefully during the holidays, as well as tomorrow and throughout this week as we learn more about self care on tonight. Also, on next week, we'll be back. Ms. Brittany Dent will be on the line to discuss self worth. She's a well known author and presenter in North Carolina. And so she'll be on next week to share the importance of self worth, self confidence during this COVID-19 pandemic. What's happening around the DFW area? There's a career opportunity. So for all of you that may know somebody looking for work here in the Dallas area, this is for you. So calling anybody that is interested in marketing. A good friend of mine, Mr. Zach Walker, he's the ETU graduate. He is offering a no experience needed position for their sales and marketing team at the Metroplex Management Group. This is an outsourcing marketing firm that brings individuals within a management training program where in 6 to 12 months, you can open your own marketing firm based on your work ethic. Hourly is $12, which comes out to $600 before taxes and $480 after taxes. Commission is untapped. We do internships, full-time working 5 days a week while getting paid weekly. So if you're interested, you can send your resume to Mr. Zach Walker. His phone number is 318-557-5151. Professional attire is required at the firm. And so he is actually scheduling first round interviews right now. Anyone who excels in our Dallas office will get the opportunity to expand to the Florida location. So if you're interested in speaking with Mr. Walker, please let me know. I'll be glad to connect you to him. He's a great guy, very well planned out guy, has a great experience. And so talked to him on yesterday. So I told him I will make that known tonight for all of those that are interested in that. Also, for all of you that are in nursing school or deciding to become a nurse, Miss Janice Strange, she is actually on the call here. She's one of our crew members here. She's actually living here in Dallas, working at Parkland Hospital. So we want to celebrate her for her big move here in Dallas. She offers study tips with preparation for the NLN pre-entrance exam into nursing school, study tips on how to pass unit exams and ATI, 24/7 support via text whether it be done, whether it be directly school related or just needing to vent about school. So anybody that's been in college for a semester know the struggles and joys of being a college student. So also YouTube material to assist with test taking. She's also a YouTube blogger, and she conducts YouTube videos as well for all nursing students that are pursuing nursing school and becoming a nurse. So we want to first shout out all the healthcare professionals right now for their hard work and dedication. Yes, virtual hand claps. I see the hand claps. Yes, we celebrate you tonight. And we want to continue to encourage all of our healthcare professionals that are working the front lines of this COVID-19 virus day in and day out. So Ms. Janice Strange is on the call. She does this with the kindness of her heart. So please, if you are thinking of anybody that is pursuing nursing, that are in nursing school, maybe struggling or need someone to talk to outside of school hours, Ms. Janice Strange is your go-to person. So if you have more questions, please let me know after this call, and I'll be glad to connect you with Ms. Janice Strange. Okay, that is all the announcements that I have on tonight. For more information, you can contact me via email or by text if you would like more information on our announcements. Our announcement will be posted to our Crew Facebook page, the Crew Young Adult Ministry Facebook page on Facebook as well. If you would like to take a look and click the like button, and you'll notice all of our encouragement, upcoming events, as well as, again, being social. That's what social media is all about, being social. And so feel free to chat with us and get to know us a little bit more during your time with us, all right? Now, we're going to get to business. We're going to get down to why we're here, which is to talk self-care. During this pandemic, a lot of us are carrying many roles. We are being stretched in so many directions, right? And sometimes we feel like we're by ourselves, we're losing energy, we're lacking the dedication and focus to stay engaged in our responsibilities. So I called on Ms. Brittany Thomas to kind of save us, so to speak, and help us to recharge. She's shaking her head already. Very humble, very humble. She's shaking her head now, but no, I'm definitely excited. We're all in for a treat. I've had the honor and privilege to hear Ms. Brittany Thomas speak at the Mental Health Expo for the mental health faith-based communities with Ms. Jemiah Williams, who was our guest speaker on last week. And Ms. Brittany Thomas hit us in the head with some knowledge I've not heard about in a long time. And so she definitely did a great job. And so tonight is going to be no different than last week. She's going to continue to light the fire here at Open Mic Night stage. So I'm going to introduce Ms. Brittany Thomas to the Open Mic Night stage, and then the floor would be hers. And so please, again, if there's any questions throughout the chat, throughout the time, please let us know. We will go ahead and stream this call via Facebook Live if you'd like to share this video to your family and friends. And then at the conclusion of Ms. Brittany Thomas's presentation, we'll open the floor for any dialogue and question and answers as well. So at this time, Ms. Brittany Thomas is here with us. She is a school psychology doctoral student at Stephen F. Austin State University. She received her bachelor's degree in sociology from Wiley College and earned her master's degree in counseling psychology from Alabama A&M University. Up till this point, Brittany has dedicated her professional and academic career to making a difference in the lives of marginalized populations. Most of her clinical work has been centered on investigating the unresolved trauma in adolescence, achievement gap, reading disability, self-esteem, self-efficacy, and body objectification. Brittany serves as the community liaison for the campus school psychology student organization and is a part of the planning committee for the Burke Mental Health Center's annual Mission Possible conference. She is also a member of the American Psychological Association and the Association of Black Psychologists. Brittany's ultimate goal is to extend and disseminate evidence-based practices to children, families, and communities who are at risk or underprivileged, lacking options, opportunities, and hope. And so at this time, let us give Ms. Brittany Thomas a virtual welcome and welcome her to the Open Mic Night stage. Ms. Thomas.
Hello, everybody.
Your turn. Absolutely.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Malik Teal always says, whenever you're in a room, it's because someone thought that you should be here.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank Thomas for thinking enough of me to invite me into you all's space, this beautiful, safe space. So before we get started, diving into self-care, I want to do a quick little icebreaker with you all. And that is simply like whether you want to do it mentally or get out a sheet of paper, however you want to do it, list your responsibilities. Whether I know Janice is a nurse. So whether you're a nurse, whether you're a sister, whether you're a brother, you're a son, whatever your responsibilities are, list about 5 or 10 things for me. Couple of seconds. Trying to fix my screens over here. Okay. Okay. Who wants to share their responsibilities or items that are on their list? Anybody? Somebody, please.
Not everybody at once.
Thomas, you can because you've already done this. Is anybody going to share? Okay, Kelsey, I see that you've unmuted yourself.
Yeah. So for my responsibilities and my duties, maybe I'm just listing my role.
Okay.
I am a daughter, I'm
Okay.
a candidate, and I'm a teaching assistant.
Okay. Okay, someone said I have school, I have work, and I'm a caretaker. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so out of the 2 people who shared their list, no one placed their self on that list.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry. I was trying to get the audio and everything to work.
Okay, it's okay. It was just a quick little icebreaker. And I just asked everyone to make a quick list of about 5 or 10 things that they're of their responsibilities. So whether you're a son, daughter, whether you're a teacher, whatever that may be, things that are responsibilities. But we've already had 2 individuals share. And I was just stating that no one placed their self on that list, right? And I think it's important when we get ready to navigate through self-care to make sure that we place ourselves at the top of that list, that you are the top priority at the beginning of the day, right? So many days we wake up thinking, okay, I have to get dressed for work. I have to do this for work. I have all these responsibilities at work for today, or I need to return phone calls to my mom or whoever and do what they need me to do. But we don't pause and say, wait, what am I doing for myself? Like as soon as I get up, right? So let's jump into self-care. I'm not able to see y'all, but I see my camera, so I know I'm looking at y'all. A quick overview of what I'll be discussing today regarding self-care. I'll give you all a few facts about mental health in general. I'll give you a definition of what self-care is. We'll go through some myths about self-care and debunk some myths. We'll also talk about some warning signs, those things that indicate that you need to pump up your self-care. Many of you may know and many of you may not know that there are many types of self-care. I think sometimes society has taught us that self-care looks a certain way, but there are many types of self-care. So we're going to go through those different types. We're going to talk about what is happening within your body and your brain when you lack good self-care routines. And then we'll talk about the benefits of self-care. Does that sound good? I need y'all to talk back to me now. Okay, if y'all don't talk back to me, I'm going to take forever.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, so a couple of facts just about mental health in general. So every day, approximately 123 Americans die by suicide. Now, check this out. This was the stat back in May when I was talking about self-care. As of today, 132 Americans die by suicide, y'all. Do y'all see that jump? like just from May to October, it went from 123 to 132, right? And we know that some of that, or much of that, is because of the pandemic, and we are really experiencing hard times. Additionally, around 75 to 90% of doctors' visits in the United States are related to stress. 75 to 90%, y'all, related to stress. 1 in 5 US adults experience mental illness. However, 5 in 5 adults, everybody experience mental health. And I think that's a part of the disconnect. We think, well, I don't have a severe mental illness, but you do have mental health. Everybody has mental health, right? Additionally, 17% of youth experience mental health disorders, ages 6 to 17, which is one of the reasons I got into the field of school psychology, because I wanted to be able to give that 6-year-old skills to cope with stress, right? Before they got to 24, before they got to 16. Imagine providing a 6-year-old those tools at such a young age to combat other mental health issues, okay? Additionally, 13% of children develop anxiety disorders due to stress. That's children, y'all. I mean, 13% doesn't sound huge, but it is a lot when we talk about children. And additionally, stress in the body can disturb your immune system, your digestive system, your cardiovascular tract. I know we got some nurses on here. Your sleep, your reproductive system. Stress is detrimental, you all. And I'm highlighting stress a lot because when we look at stress, stress is what causes anxiety. Stress causes depression, right? Which eventually may lead to suicide. So that's why I'm highlighting stress a lot when we're talking about self-care. So self-care affords us the opportunity to manage our stress better. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I can't see any head nods or anything because
Yes.
Okay, so let's get into what self-care is. Okay, so self-care is basically any activity we do deliberately to take care of our mental, our emotional, and physical health, right? That sounds very simple. That sounds super easy. It's an easy concept in theory, but we get it so wrong. How can something sound so simple when we get it so wrong, y'all? So self-care also has the ability to improve our mood, to reduce anxiety, right? Self-care is about making those mindful changes within our behavior for our overall well-being. Does that make sense? So it sounds super easy, but we mess up when it comes to self-care. We find ourselves in this routine of just being busy or wanting to please everyone or say yes to everything. So that is how we kind of overlook self-care. And I'll get into blind spots a little later. But there's this idea that people think that, okay, I'm just going to go get my nails done on a Monday and that's my self-care for the rest of the week, or that's my self-care for the rest of the month. But self-care is a compilation of things. It's no one and done. You can't just do one thing and say, okay, I've done my self-care. No, that one thing, you're still going to burn out. It is not going to stop you from burning out, right? And also self-care, it's a compilation of things, and it's also very subjective. So what works for Kelsey may not work for me, right? It varies, and it has to be tailored specifically for the individual, right? Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, Brittany.
Told y'all got to talk back to me.
Yes.
And I think what did you say? I'm sorry.
That's why I left it unmuted.
Okay. I need interaction from everybody.
Brittany,
So,
is it okay? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Is it okay? Like, could we ask you questions? Like,
sure.
right? Okay.
During
I feel so weird doing. My name is Sin. I feel so weird doing that. I feel like I'm interrupting some like a lecture. I hate that. Okay, so I want to ask you.
Okay.
What if a person doesn't know what self-care is for them? Because, like you said, self-care may look different for everyone. But what if a person thinks like, okay, I'll just exercise or get my nails done, but that's not really beneficial to them. What if they don't know? Like, what suggestions would you have for that person?
Okay, I think I may answer your question as I move on through, but if I
Okay,
don't,
no worries.
if I don't, I'm gonna make a little note saying I will. Okay.
Okay.
I just don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's see. Now I've lost. Okay. So when we talk about self-care and the importance of it, understand, just like we were just talking about that list at the end, at the beginning of the segment, how we should be at the top of that list. That is our responsibility, y'all. We have a responsibility to care for ourselves, and it is important that we respond well to that responsibility, right? Because the lack of self-care or avoiding self-care is simply rejecting yourself, right? It's self-rejection. When I decide, okay, I'm not going to care for myself, and we don't want to do that. I like the way Dr. Rita Walker out of Houston puts it. She talks about self-care being self-preservation, right? That preserves us. And she talks about psychological fortitude, which is simply our ability to withstand hard stuff, right? Our ability to withstand and overcome hard stuff. And that's what self-care helps us to do. It's simply self-preservation. So let's debunk some myths. I hear a lot of times people saying self-care is selfish. Well, it's actually the complete opposite. Self-care is good for those around you, because if I'm taking good care of myself, I could be a good friend. I could be a good wife. I could be a good mother. I could be a good employee if I'm taking care of myself. Another myth is it's time consuming. Well, self-care isn't time consuming when you've implemented it into your regular routine. So it's better when combined with a regular routine. And that's why I say, like, you can't just self-care on a Monday and say, like, that's it. Self-care works better when it's integrated into your normal routine. Also, another myth is that self-care is expensive. Well, yeah, if you have this fantasy view of self-care and every day you want to be at the Ritz-Carlton at the spa, yes, self-care is going to be expensive if that's what you're trying to do. I mean, if you could do that, go ahead and do that. But many of us can't go to the Ritz-Carlton every day to the spa. So it's important to not think of it as this expensive thing. So let's get into blind spots. I think I probably mentioned this a little earlier, that we all have blind spots. Me as a budding psychologist, I have blind spots. I don't always get self-care right. Sometimes I'm super busy and forget to slow down. So in order to overcome the blind spots that we may have, it's simply building a community, right? Finding some self-care accountability partners. You all are members of the crew. You all can say, okay, let's hold each other accountable when it comes to self-care this month, right? Another way to overcome blind spots is to create a self-care checklist. At the beginning of every week, Sunday night, create a self-care checklist, a goal list. How am I going to care for myself this week? How am I going to implement self-care every day this week? Whether I decide to meditate on Monday, whether I decide to go to the gym on Tuesday, how am I going to implement self-care? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about what's happening in the body and the brain. I know I got some nurses on here. So when we neglect self-care, we may find that there are deficiencies within our cognitive function. So that's your ability to plan. That's your problem solving. That's your ability to organize, your ability to self-regulate. And some of us, we have some tough jobs, and some jobs that may cause us to want it. So we need that skill to be able to self-regulate, right? I need to be able to regulate my emotions quickly. Like, I can't be going off on the job. So not your ability to self-regulate. A lack of self-care may cause issues within your attention and your focus, right? We need to make sure that we're attentive and focused, right? When it comes to our responsibilities that you all listed on your list earlier. Also, lack of self-care may cause deficiencies within your memory. Y'all, there may be an off balance of chemicals and hormones, right? Additionally, there may be an increase of cortisol, which can lead to tumors, y'all. So cortisol is that stress hormone. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah, and additionally, lack of self-care may cause you to age quicker. I don't know about y'all, but I'm not trying to age quicker.
Neither. Neither.
Not trying to do it. So let's get into some warning signs. Like you may be asking yourself, well, how do I know if I need more self-care? How do I know if I'm not doing a good job? Anxiety can be a warning sign. You're distracted all the time can be a warning sign. There's some things going on within your self-esteem, like you don't feel like yourself. That can be a warning sign. You have a lack of empathy, like a friend comes to you with some information and you just lack empathy where you should have some empathy. That could be a sign. You're experiencing fatigue, like your mood is all over the place. You're not completing tasks at the same rate and speed that you normally would. Right? Your piece is all over the place. Those are some signs that you may need to pump up your self-care. I saw something recently on social media. It talks about how, especially within the Black community, and how it talks about Black women sometimes don't notice that they're experiencing depression and anxiety because it looks like failure. Which is so real, you guys. So real. So the fact that you think you're in a season of failure or that you're failing, that may be a warning sign that we need to reevaluate some things. Like this may actually be some depression or some anxiety, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's get into, I know I just gave you all a mouthful, and we ain't even really got into like the types of self-care yet and what falls within those types. So many people may not know that there are many types of self-care, like many you all. There is physical self-care, there is personal self-care, there is practical self-care, emotional, spiritual, social, and then there's professional self-care, which is a big one for me. So let's get into those.
I give some
Okay.
Okay. So let's get into some of those types of self-care. I'm not going to go through all of them, just a few of them. So the first one that I want to talk about is personal self-care, you all. That's you, like you as a person, right? So the first thing I would say about personal self-care is to stop performing, right? Let's show up. Let's make sure we show up as our authentic and organic selves, right? Because when we're performing, that is exhausting. That's exhausting, especially when we're in spaces that don't look like us. I know at one of my jobs, I used to come home just drained because I felt like I was just fake smiling and laughing all day. Like I was not being my authentic self in that space. So I had to just redirect how I was operating in that space and learn to not perform and just to show up as the person that I am, if that makes sense. Another thing for personal self-care is to set a pace, to pace yourself. I know many of us are on social media and the internet will try to rush you, right? Social media, let me tell you all one thing about social media. Social media breeds comparison, right? You get on there and you see people who graduated high school with you and they're buying homes and doing all this stuff and you get to wonder like, what am I doing with my life, right? So it's important to set a pace for you and understand that it is one step at a time, and then you create a strategy for your life and for you around the pace that you move at. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Another thing we should do when it comes to personal self-care is set goals, right? But within your goal setting, set realistic and measurable goals. Sometimes we set a goal like in 30 minutes, I want to have $1 million. No, that's not realistic. So let's make sure we're setting realistic and measurable goals. Another thing I like to do for my personal self-care is self-reflect. Take some time throughout the day and really assess how I feel. Ask myself, do you need anything, right? Is there anything that you should be celebrating? Is there anything that you should be releasing, right? Like maybe you had a hard day, maybe you just read a hard text message, or there's some emotions that you need to release. So make sure you spend some time with yourself to self-reflect, right? Another thing will be to discover yourself. Take some time to discover what you like. I just recently discovered that I love vinyl records. Like going to the record store brings me so much joy. Like, and I just discovered that about myself. And that's one of those things I've incorporated in my self-care. Like I'll turn my record player on and listen to one of my favorite songs and just hold space for myself. Another thing that is so important, like I was just talking about social media breeding comparison, it is so important for us to unplug you all from social media. Limit your check-ins. There are a lot of things that are going on within our society that just breeds trauma. Like we're seeing every day an injustice, right? And that stuff is heavy. So it is important to limit your social media check-ins because it just replays what's going on. Another thing to aid in your personal self-care is to celebrate yourself. I just mentioned celebrating yourself, but to celebrate yourself. Make sure you take a moment and celebrate those small things that are really big things, because I believe that every small accomplishment is major. To make sure you're celebrating yourself. I know for me, that's something I had to learn because in the midst of all these things that I was accomplishing, I never took the time to celebrate. I never paused and celebrated my bachelor's degree. Then I got a master's degree. I never paused and celebrated that. And then I was like, hold on, like you're not going back to school, so you better learn to celebrate some stuff because I don't want to get to the end of my PhD and be like, what's next? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Additionally, it's important for us to tighten our circles, y'all. It's okay to not be friends with everybody or not to associate with everybody. And to make sure your circle is tight and that you're in good company. It works.
That's good. I had to interrupt. That's good right there.
Yeah,
I felt that. Ooh,
a lot of
Lord.
that's real good.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
you know, we can
right there.
Yeah. Go
ahead, Adrian. Go ahead. Did you have something to say?
I was just saying I felt that. That's all I was saying. I felt that. That was good.
Because a lot of times, like we get so emotional. All of us do. I think because when we say or not, when we receive those messages requesting a service, borrowing money, hey, I need you to do this for me. I need you to do this. It's that I for yourself. And it's never just checking in. And I made a post about that. It's okay to say how you're doing without requesting a service. You know what I'm saying? And it's sometimes we have to be okay with blocking people on Facebook, blocking people on social media, blocking people from your cell phone. Because
or muting.
Muting. There you go.
Or muting. I had to mute a cousin. I had to mute a cousin because their thread was just bad for my mental health. And also when we talk about tighten circles and making sure you're in good company, when I say that, I mean being surrounded by people who can hold space for you. Right? Me and Kelsey had a 2-hour conversation last night, just holding space for each other. I had a bad day earlier this week. I called another friend and she just held space for me. Not many people have that skill to hold space. So making sure we have communities like that, right? And lastly, when we're talking about personal self-care, ask yourself, when it's a relationship, whether it's a task, whatever it is, how does this support the life that I desire to live? Right? When Thomas asked me to do this, I asked myself that question, how does this support the life, no matter what the task is? And it does, because this is what I do. Like, this supports who I am as an advocate. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's just a thing I say, y'all. Does that make sense? But I do want to hear. So let's get into another type of self-care. That is mental and psychological self-care, y'all. Number one, ask for help. And that goes back to your circle, making sure you're surrounded by people who you can ask for help, right? The quickest ticket to burnout is carrying burdens, heavy burdens by yourself. That's the quickest ticket to burnout. What asking for help says is you love yourself, and that you're aware of your capacity, how much you can bear. That's what asking for help says. It's also important to change how you view things, right? Because we know our thoughts can become our realities, right? So we do this activity called putting your thoughts on trial. So when you may be having a negative thought, ask yourself, do I have evidence to support this thought that I'm having, right? Another thing is kind of like what Thomas was just saying no. It's a complete sentence. You could say no with no explanation. That one of my cousins, she gets mad at me for that. She says, you'll just say no and don't tell us why. I can do that. For my mental health, I can just say no and walk away and be okay. Another thing I would say for your mental and psychological health is mindfulness, you all. Mindfulness is simply being present in the moment. A great example of that I like to give is for those of you who drink coffee or tea or whatever, in the morning when you get your coffee, assess that coffee. Like, what does it smell like? What aromas is it giving off? When you drink it, feel the warmth going through your body. Be present, be one with your coffee, right? Shut every other thought out, and just be one and present in that moment.
That is so tough. Sorry, Brittany. I felt that.
I
felt that. I'm sorry.
I
felt that. I had to say it. I had to say something. Okay, I'll be quiet. Sorry.
I like engagement. You are fine.
Okay.
Another thing would be positive self-talk and affirmations, y'all. This is number one on my list. When I'm having a bad day, or I'm just like just down, I have to remember who I am, and I do that by affirmations. And I'll literally tell myself, wait a minute, remember who you are. Remember what you were created to do. You have purpose. You can do this, right? You are built for this. You can do hard things. Like, I literally look at myself in the mirror, or I'll get sticky notes and just start writing affirmations to myself, right? So that's something that we have to put in practice and incorporate. I think that should be a daily thing. When you wake up in the morning, when you're brushing your teeth, like, affirm yourself, because sometimes we're going to be the only ones who do affirm ourselves. So make sure you're doing that. And that can be like, today I choose to be happy. I choose to love myself. I'm doing my best. I am healthy. I am whole. I'm worthy. Those are just some examples. Another great tool when it comes to mental and psychological self-care is therapy. Oh, we're scared of that sometimes. We're scared of that therapy. But you all, it is those hard things that you don't want to talk to anybody about. You have a confidential space with an expert, someone who's had years of training and they have the tools and the expertise to give you different strategies. Like these ain't this isn't advice that you go to your homegirl for, right? It's just a good space where people who know what they're doing, know what they're talking about, can really assess what you have going on and really guide you through it. So I'm always going to say therapy. And at the end, I'll give you some resources on how to find a therapist. And I'll also say this, you all. Some people say, I've tried therapy, I don't like it. Well, therapy is a little like dating. You have to search and date around for the right one. And make sure you're a good match, because research supports the idea that there should be a therapist and client working relationship, because it aids in better results when it comes to going to therapy. Like 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a better experience when you like your therapist. So make sure you date around and find the right one. Lastly, when it comes to mental and psychological self-care, I would say reading. Get you a good book. Get you a good book. Go out by a river, a body of water, and just have a good time with that book, right? To take your mind off of everything that may be going on. So let's get into emotional self-care. And my favorite thing to tell people when it comes to self-care in general, that's to be honest with yourself. Just be honest with yourself. Be honest about what you're feeling. Be honest about what's going on. And we as people, we like to do this thing called avoiding. Like we try to work, like keep ourselves busy so we don't have to think about what's going on or how we really feel about a situation, or a person said something wrong to you and it has your blood boiling. Be honest about that and lean into those feelings, right? Because your feelings are real and they are valid. Lean into your feelings, because your feelings sometimes, or a lot of the time, serve as a compass of where you need to spruce up your self-care. They tell you what to address. Like if you're feeling sad about something, your feelings, that's going to tell you, okay, you need to do some activities to love on yourself, right? You need to go and find a positive outlet. So those feelings serve as a compass, right? When you're feeling overwhelmed, your feelings, that sends a indication that you need to take a step back. You need to take a breather. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Also, when it comes to emotional self-care, it's important, you all, that the same grace that we love to extend to others, that we extend it to ourselves. The same way, whenever I'm hard on myself, I like to ask myself a question. I'll use one of my friends' names. How would you talk to Kelsey in this moment, right? How would you talk to Thomas in this moment, right? The same way you will talk to anybody else and extend grace to anybody else, make sure you do that for yourself. And we have a hard time doing that, you all. That self-compassion, that self-forgiveness. Make sure we're practicing that in your daily, and incorporating that in your daily routines. When we talk about self-care being intertwined in your daily routines, make sure you're extending grace to yourself daily. That's a form of self-care. Journaling, you all, is good. It helps you get those negative thoughts out of your head and onto some paper. Like, get it out of here. Like, free your mind. Deep breathing. I love deep breathing, you all. And I'll literally do like a body gesture of deep breathing, like shoulders up here and then dropping my shoulders, like releasing whatever is going on, because that deep breathing brings balance back into your body. So making sure, if you just say, okay, let me count to 5. If you have an Apple Watch or some kind of smart watch, there's a breathing app on there. You get a breathing app on your phone. If you're having a hard time, just click that app and do some quick breathing exercises to bring that balance back within your body. Another thing that helps us with our emotional self-care is just having gratitude. Simply having gratitude. being grateful for where you are and what you have can do wonders when it comes to your emotions. Like, just when I think about all the things that I should be grateful for, I forget like why I was even upset. I have this painting in my house that says gratitude makes everything enough. So let's get into Crew is a ministry. So let's get into spiritual self-care, y'all. When it comes to spiritual self-care, I always tell people to keep a scripture near. Keep a scripture in your mouth, right? I know some of my favorites is no good thing will God withhold from me. Right? When you're thinking like things may not turn out the way you want it to turn out, I'll be like, Lord, no good thing will you withhold from me. Right? All things are working together for my good. The Lord is my shepherd, right? Be anxious for nothing. Right? Make sure you always have a scripture near to quickly redirect you when you feel yourself like sliding into a space that you don't feel comfortable being in. Devotion. That's a good one to start your morning with devotion. That's a good way to implement spiritual self-care within your daily routines. Does that make sense? When we talk about, a lot of people say, well, I don't have time for self-care. Well, when you're implementing it in your daily routine and just starting your day with a devotional, even I know Thomas was saying that he had a long commute to work. Like, I know most Mondays, I'm probably gonna start my day, like my drive, with a sermon by Bishop Jakes. Like that's just a part of my routine. I mean, I'm not doing nothing driving anyway, so why not put on a podcast or a sermon that I desire to listen to? Meditation, finding that quiet time, yoga, music. Let me tell y'all, music heals.
Oh, yeah.
So making sure you're incorporating some good and positive music within your self-care routines. And then I would say spending time within nature. So right now I live in the Smoky Mountains. So that's a great form of like getting outdoors and self-care, making sure that I'm getting vitamin D, which gives off serotonin, right? That helps with that stress and and depression and things like that. So make sure you're getting some sun in those trails. One of my favorite things to talk about, professional self-care, y'all. How many of y'all struggle with this?
I never knew it was really a thing till now.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's see. So professional self-care. Leave that work at that job.
Well, that's a hard one.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Leave that work at that job. I'm telling y'all, leave it there. It's gonna be there tomorrow. It does get hard. As a school psychologist, I have to write pretty lengthy reports, and sometimes I can't use a whole day at work to write those reports. So I have to get creative in how I'm going to spread out my time to write those reports. But best believe I'm not bringing it home. No, I'm not bringing it home. So make sure you're creating those boundaries within your workplace. Like, don't y'all at the job be calling me after hours. Take a lunch break. How many of y'all just work through lunch? Or working at the same time and eating your lunch? Don't do that.
I have sometimes.
Don't do that. Take your time and you go find you. Like, I know in one of my old jobs, there would be like community lunch where everybody would eat at like the lunch lounge or whatever together. I'm like, I work with y'all all day. I need some quiet time. I need some me time for me. Because, you know, the job can be a little tedious. So I need to go and find some quiet time and renew my thoughts. So I'm going to go over here and have lunch by myself and not work while I'm doing it. Another major thing that we don't do, and not, Thomas said that I could be explicit, but I don't think this is too explicit.
Come on.
Make sure y'all, make sure you go and pee. Like so many times we're so into writing a report or typing up what we're typing up that we'll just forget what our body is saying. And next thing you know, you run into the restroom because like you about to have an accident. No, when you need to go and use the restroom, go and use the restroom. That job can wait. Like I know some nurses on here like that has some medical detriments in itself when you don't listen to your body in that way. Set and stick to a schedule. Right. I know for me, I'll have a certain windows when I respond and check emails. I can't spend all day responding to emails. If I don't get to it within my window tomorrow, I'll get to it. So set and stick to a schedule when it comes to things like returning phone calls, checking voicemails, and checking emails. You all, because those things can overtake you. Like, and one of my supervisors once told me, just because it's their emergency does not make it my priority. I understand that your roof is on fire over there, but to protect my mental health, I can't jump when you tell me to jump. That's going to lead to burnout if you're always jumping when someone else asks you to jump.
Can you say that again?
The phrase that
you said your emergency.
Just because it's your emergency does not make it my priority.
Ooh, that's so good. Ooh, Lord. Write that down. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Another thing that I've incorporated within my professional self-care that has worked wonders for me, at the end of the day, I'll make a list for the next day so that I'm not overwhelmed. I'm organized. I already know what I need to come in and do. And that's another reason I could leave my work at work, because I've already made a list of what I'm going to come in and do tomorrow so I can be productive and do everything that I need to do. Right? So make a list for the next day. Something I recently had to do was take my email notifications off of my cell phone, because it would just disturb me so bad on the Saturday or on the Sunday. I'm looking at my phone and I got 5 emails at 6 a.m. from a colleague. So I just had to remove my notifications. So that can be a boundary for professional self-care. The last type of self-care, I told y'all there were a lot of types of self-care. Physical self-care. First things first, rest. Make sure you're resting. Make sure you're resting. And just because you're asleep does not mean that you're resting. Right? There's actually some affirmations that you can speak over yourself when you're preparing to go to bed. Like simply like, okay, my mind is clear. I'm ready and I'm prepared to go to bed. Right? Make sure you get your mind right. Because we know like sometimes you could be thinking about something so bad, you're dreaming about it. So make sure that your mind is clear before you go to bed so that you can actually rest, right? And get those 8 hours of sleep, right? Make sure you're getting enough water so that you're not dehydrated, right? So many of us function off of dehydration. I can raise my hand. Make sure you're getting enough water, you all. Make sure you're exercising, because exercise releases endorphins, providing stress relief, right, nurses? And exercise makes you feel good, right? And people be like, you glowing. That's because I've been working out, girl. Yeah. But anyway, also watch your caffeine intake, because too much caffeine can mirror anxiety. So make sure, I know there's some coffee lovers on here. So make sure you're monitoring your caffeine intake. Because I know for me, I can't really do energy drinks, although we shouldn't be drinking energy drinks anyway, but I can't get to sleep at night. Like I'm running like a motor. Like my anxiety is just through the roof whenever I have too much caffeine. Make sure you're having a well-balanced diet. For those of you who are busy, you may want to incorporate some meal prepping, maybe on a Sunday night, so that you can just grab and go throughout the week, and you're not worried about what am I going to have for lunch tomorrow, or that I have to stop and buy something for lunch tomorrow, right? So yeah, that's physical self-care. And what self-care really teaches us, like, is our capacity measure, right? It helps us understand, like, when we're aware of how we should be implementing self-care, we learn what we have the capacity for, right? When we learn to say no, we learn, like, you're able to analyze why you're saying no. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm saying no because me taking on your task is going to wear me out, right? I'm learning what my capacity is, how much I can handle, if that makes sense. Something also important about self-care is that it's important to learn how to pivot, to be flexible, because every season of your life, self-care may look different. So I just recently transitioned to Knoxville, Tennessee, from living in Texas. My self-care in Texas is totally different from my self-care in Knoxville. Why? Because this is the first time I ever moved to a place where I didn't know anybody, right? So I had to really spruce up and tighten my community because I'm in a place where I know nobody. So depending on where you are in life, your self-care is going to look different. As you get older, self-care is going to look different for you. So make sure you learn how to pivot and detach from old coping mechanisms, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I would say, maximize your moments of self-care. If you have this large window when you could get a lot of self-care in within the day, maximize it. Like, get it all in. Like, okay, if I have this full 30 minutes, well, I don't have anything to do, I may just want to sit in peace. And I'm going to maximize this peace for a moment. So let's talk about the benefits of self-care, you all. Self-care leaves you feeling nourished, right? It builds you up. It allows you to make yourself a priority. It interrupts anxious thinking, right? When we talk about journaling, when we talk about meditating, when we talk about mindfulness, it interrupts that negative and anxious thinking. And then lastly, it helps you label exactly what your feelings are. When we talk about leaning into your feelings and understanding what your feelings are telling you to do, or which areas your feelings are telling you to pump up in self-care when it comes to the different types. Before I get into resources, are there any questions? Sam, I hope I answered your question.
Oh, sorry.
You did answer it. Because you said measuring your capacity level. I think I asked you, like, how would someone know what self-care looks like to them? And I think that pretty much answers it for me, like measuring how much I'm able to take.
Yeah. And when you're understanding what you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
Being in tune with those feelings. Because if you're drained all the time, that's saying something.
Yes.
If you feel like there is no time for you and you're just running and don't know where you're going, that's saying something.
Yeah, so that's true.
I think
I had a question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my question is, how can we get more comfortable with saying no? Because I always feel like either I have to explain or I feel bad if I say no. Like, I have a really bad thing when people ask me for money. Like, I just have a soft spot for people. I don't know. It's just something about saying no. Like, I can say no, but then I feel like, dang, well, they really do need help. So then I make their problem mine. So I don't know.
So when I say no, when I tell you to say no without explanation, you don't necessarily have to say no without explanation, right? I think it's important to find your way of saying no. You can simply say, I would love to help you, but at this time, I simply cannot. Right? You can find cute and nice ways to say it, but make sure you're maintaining your boundaries. If really in your heart you desire to say no, don't change what your desire is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna start practicing that. Thank you.
You're welcome. There's actually this thing that I saw on social media. I'm going to have to find it. It was like 10 ways of teaching people how to say no. So I'll have to find it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Fine,
I'll
you can email it,
Yeah,
and I'll share it with you. Yeah.
cool.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
Brittany, I have a quick question. Sometimes there's a fine line between self-care and being selfish.
Mhm.
Is there a way you can like, because I know I struggle with that sometimes.
Okay.
I feel like, or I used to feel like self-care equals me being selfish or someone being selfish. Like, could you just maybe give a quick definition on like self-care versus selfish? I know we all know what selfish is, but sometimes as we're going through it, sometimes we can feel guilty. I think like the other lady specified, like it's hard to say no. Sometimes like your mind, you just feel guilty. So
Right.
can you kind of explain that?
So self-care is going to look selfish to some people.
Okay.
The people who want you to neglect your self-care and take care of them, of course, it's going to look selfish to them, right? But I think, like I was saying earlier, in order to be the best person you can be, or to show up as the best version of you, you have to take that time to take care of yourself, right? When we talk about self-preservation, you have to take that time to take care of yourself in order to preserve. Like, I don't want to age quicker. Does that make sense? And I don't want to have this influx of anxiety or find myself sliding into depression. So I have to make sure I take that time for myself, right? I mean, you can set a schedule. Like, I'm not saying your entire day has to be just filled with self-care, because we know we have responsibilities.
Right.
But I would say just be very strategic about setting a schedule and the type of self-care that you would like to implement. Just make sure you're getting it in and you're taking care of yourself.
Right. So just like
Now,
basically make sure you have balance, like
yeah,
balancing your responsibilities, whether you have children, whether you're a
exactly.
daughter. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Because it's a spectrum, and it looks different. In some season, you're going to be able to give yourself more care than other seasons.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
so
just
true.
make sure you're evaluating that and listening to yourself. At the end of the day, one of my this psychologist that I love, I think we friends. We can say we're friends or whatever. She talked about the other day how her body had to literally, she had a small watermelon-sized tumor, and she kept putting it off. And her body had to literally tell her, you have to sit down. And she was even trying to rationalize in her mind, like, well, I have to be on this panel this day. I could schedule the surgery for this day. And the surgeon was like, no, ma'am, you have to recover well, right? So we have to make sure we are evaluating how we're taking care of ourselves so our bodies don't force us to take a step back. And like I was saying, like an influx of cortisol can cause tumors. Like, I don't want to be so stressed out that tumors have formed in my body.
I didn't have a question, but I did have a huge takeaway. I don't know if we're at takeaways or
I was
not.
just going to say that. I was
Go
going to say
ahead.
that. Yes.
Okay. Just a huge takeaway. As I'm just sitting here in the same space as you are, in the same time frame that we're in, and I am just listening to everything that you're saying, Brittany, and what I get a sense is that self-care is a self-discovery process
Definitely.
where it looks different in someone else's worldview than your own worldview. And sometimes it can get, things can kind of get entangled where you think that your schedule is supposed to align with someone else's schedule and what their self-care practices look like. And so I'm just finding myself realizing that a lot of what it is that you're already, giving, providing to us to, you know, enhance our well-being, I'm already practicing, such as mindfulness, prayer, scriptures, listening to sermons, listening to gospel music. Those are things that I'm already doing. And keeping that in the forefront will help me come to the realization that it is a practice that you were just not aware that you were consciously doing it. And so that's a huge thank you to just really lay out the different dimensions of what self-care looks like. So thank you, Brittany, for doing that.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for having me. Thank y'all for being receptive.
Yeah, absolutely. And we need it.
Yeah. Good. Are there any other takeaways right now? Is your time takeaways? Anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, I had another question.
Okay.
Kind of about when she said creating space, like having friends that create space for you. Is that kind of like, let's say I had a bad day at work because I talked to one of my cousins and I'm, trying to just kind of get that off my chest, but then they follow up before I can even finish my complete thought with, oh my gosh, my day was bad too. This happened. Is that what you meant? Okay.
So yeah, so that's not holding space. But we find ourselves in situations like that all the time. I'm like, dang, I called you to
exactly
for just some space, just to be a soundboard, and now I got to be a soundboard for your stuff. So definitely not that.
Okay.
Or that may be a person you could talk about if you just want to talk about each other's day or whatever. But I wouldn't consider that that person to hold space. Well, I can't say that about that person. I don't know that person. But you may want to find specifically who can hold space for you. And another thing I wanted to quickly say about when we talk about tightening circles and finding people, finding your community and people who will be there. In Dr. Darius Daniels' book, Relational Intelligence, he has a chapter about friendship. So his book is all about relationships. So he talks about friendships. And when we're looking for people to be within our community or to be our friends, or trying to decide whether or not this person is a friend or not, or where I'm going to stick them in the category, whether they're going to be an associate or whether they're going to be a friend or whatever. And he says we can simply ask the question, does this person bring me joy? Does this person bring me joy? And that was one of my big takeaways from his book. Like, oh yeah, that person brings me joy. That person, like I was able to go through this list, like who brings me joy? And I'm like, no, that person doesn't bring me joy. So that person may not be within my community. So I think that's a good way of assessing like who you desire to be within your safe space.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's get into some resources. A big thing that I love is to just follow self-care and mental health pages on social media. They have the cute little visuals where they got the cute illustrations and things like that with a lot of great information. So I follow those, and you could just type in self-care in your Instagram in your Instagram search engine. You could type in mental health and many pages will come up. I follow and I keep up with the National Alliance of Mental Health, that organization. I'm a part of the American Association the American Psychological Association, and you don't really have to be a member. They have plenty of stuff within their websites. The American Counseling Association, they have plenty of things within their website. And then I download a lot of apps. I have this app now, it's called the Mind and Body app. So it shows you resources within where you live. So you just simply type in your zip code, and it'll tell you wellness, physical, beauty, whatever you're looking for within your community or near where you live. And then I also have a few books. Well, 2 books that I'll share with y'all today. Thomas has probably already showed y'all this one. It's The Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health by Dr. Rita Walker. I was talking about psychological fortitude earlier. This is her book. Some good stuff, especially for Black people. Some really good stuff. And then another book, because we as people, we get caught up into perfection of what we think our lives should look like. So Brene Brown has this book called The Gift of Imperfection. So good, you all. So check that out. Like I said, I like to read. I like to just get some books and find a quiet space and just get all the knowledge that I can. So you can even just search Google or Google Scholars, whatever you're thinking about, like whether it's anxiety or whatever, and read like some just some evidence-based literature on certain things. So that's another resource. Or just Google Psychology Today. Oh, let's talk about how to find some therapists. So Therapy for Black Girls has a directory. If you're looking for a therapist, Psychology Today has a directory. Therapy for Black Men has a directory. And you can filter through, like your insurance agency, your area. I think you can even filter like their specialties and things like that to really find your fit. And like I said, y'all, make sure you really find your fit. It may not be the first therapist or counselor. It may be your 4th one that you realize, okay, this is the person like that's going to help me navigate through some tough times. So yeah.
Perfect. Let's give Brittany. Are you all done?
I am.
More. Thank you so much. Let's give Brittany. Go ahead. Let's give Brittany a virtual hand clap and celebrate her tonight. Listen, we've learned a great deal of information. We've achieved so much in the time we've been here and gained a lot ourselves too. So the event is finished. Open Mic Night is finished. But of course, it doesn't really stop here. And it'll be soon time to begin your workday on tomorrow. And so tonight, it's so important that you remember your takeaway and apply some of these personal self-care strategies. Go ahead, Brittany.
I do have one thing.
Okay.
I just challenge you all tonight to figure out tonight how you're going to care for yourself tomorrow. And then tomorrow, do the same thing for the next day. That was it.
That's good. And to add on to that, Brittany, can folks know where to contact you? Can you let folks know where they can locate you and follow you on social media?
Sure. I'm on Facebook as Brittany Thomas. I'm on Instagram. Let me just type it in the chat. Well, let's do that.
Facebook. Most of us are on social media, email, and then I know Candace is on here. She's one that is not on social media, and so
I'll give my email.
Is fine. Email. I have email as well. If you would like to play back this video, you're more than welcome to shoot me an email, and I'll provide you with the link. We will also be providing you with our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is up, The Crew YAM on YouTube. You can locate all of our previous recordings for your listening and encouraging needs. So don't forget about that. And so again, it's been a pleasure. Utilize a personal self-care strategy tonight. Start thinking about that tonight and focus on completing and accomplishing your self-care strategy on tomorrow. And so Brittany has posted her social media and her contact information in the chat. If you would like to have her information, please take a note of that. And so look, we'll be back next Thursday, 7:00 p.m. Brittany, we appreciate your work and what you're doing. God bless you in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's a new area, new town for you. I know God is working through you and you're accomplishing big things. So let's continue to support her work, and more importantly, Black women and Black men. We're living, this world is messed up. 2020 is crazy, if we're being honest. So crazy. And we all need a big hug.
We do, y'all. And we didn't touch much on trauma tonight, but yeah, it's heavy, y'all. It's heavy. And understand that as Black people, we're literally born into trauma, right? Just because the way we look, and then when we trace back our lineage and all this stuff, like, we're just surrounded by trauma, but we have to learn how to heal from it, right? That's a different topic for another day. But I do a lot of reading on that. I get a lot of my healing from trauma through reading. There are a lot of great psychologists who have written a lot of great books. Post-traumatic slave syndrome is a good one to check out. And then Dr. Rita Walker talks a lot. I mean, it's about Black people, a lot about those traumas and how to navigate through. And then she talks about like all the things that because of trauma and because of unhealthy traditions that we are accustomed to, and how we got to navigate through them and out of them. So check it out, y'all. Unplug.
Are there any other takeaways or last minute questions or clarification from tonight's presentation?
I just want to quickly say, discover yourself. A lot of times when we get up in age, we really don't want to set time aside for self-discovery because we feel like we're running out of time.
That's good.
Yeah, and that can lead to a lot of stress. So, we really don't think about self-discovery as self-care. So that was a really good one, a good point that you brought up.
Yeah. And it's not too late either. It's not.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Sam. Thank you all of you for your dialogue, for participation on tonight. Listen, this has been a great opportunity for us to grow our communities. And you are the crew, believe it or not. You don't have to be a member of the City View Church at all. This is an open group. And anytime you are here, you are able to take valuable information and affect one person, right? And so believe that, remember that, you are the crew. And please continue to support one another. Stay encouraged and practice self-care. I'm reminded by a quote that Brittany just talked about. It's that social media breeds comparison. And so I myself am going to pace myself and, kind of allow social media to, stay away from me and, kind of unplug here and there. That's just my takeaway for myself on this week. And so again, we appreciate all of you for the work you're doing in your communities and what you will continue to do in this life. And so we look forward to seeing you back at the next time. We look forward to seeing you at next week at Open Mic Night again. Please let me know if I can be of service to you or I can answer any questions that you may have about Open Mic Night. We love to have you here anytime that you are opened. Please come on in. We would love to get to know you more. So we thank you so much again, and we look forward to seeing you next week. God bless y'all. You have a good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Good night.